Greetings, YouTube. I'm taking a look at the After the Bomb 2nd Edition game again. I do this every couple of years because I think it's some of the best mutant animal creation rules I've ever read. But there's one thing about this book that I don't normally do, which is read the entire thing. So it's been a while since I looked at the Palladium rule system, so I thought, okay, I'm going to read the whole thing. I mean, not every single word, but the rules. I want to read the rules. I want to read the skills, the whole line, the career paths, all that kind of stuff. And then eventually I'll get to the actual mutant animals. And I like to reread the mutant animals because I can just, like, every time I read one of the entries, all of them, I start to think about, okay, how would I play this particular mutant animal? How would I want to tailor it? What kind of a character would I like to play? I think I may actually do a series on that, series of videos, where I go through and talk about different mutant animals and what kind of characters I would want to use that animal for, what kind of a career path. But in the process of doing that, again, I'm reading the book pretty much all the way through. I discovered something. Let me find here we go. They're talking about whether player characters should be allowed to pick which species they play, or they should be rolled randomly. So, this is the passage. Still, there are a few good reasons to go with random character creation, and there's 4 reasons. Number 1. Random rolls equals good role-playing. Excellent players can role-play anything. An excellent player can play any character and sees a weak character as a challenge, not a liability. 2. Random rolls, something new and different. Even the best players fall into ruts. Random determination may create something the gamer will love playing that he or she would never have tried if allowed to choose. 3. Time saved. Another advantage of random character generation is the convenience that it provides to the GM. Instead of laboriously constructing every new villain NPC, the game master can just roll up the new encounters. This makes scenario design and quick response to player actions much easier. And 4, realism. Finally, let's not forget that random rolls reflect real life. It comes down to the old adage, you can choose your friends, but you can't choose your parents. Even in the lives of fantasy characters, there may be no control over their origins. So let me address this. This is a topic I know I've talked about before, but it's got stuck in my craw reading this. It's actually negatively impacted my enjoyment of this book so far. I've moved past this. I'm well into I think I've just finished reading the mutant psionic abilities, mutant mutations. Haven't gotten to the animal section yet, but I will. So random roll number 1 is good role playing. That is gatekeeping. Because you are saying an excellent role player can play anything. And that implication is if you hand anything to anyone to play and they don't knock it out of the park, they are, by extension, not an excellent role player. Why would you want to set up barriers like that? Why would you want to do that to somebody? Remember, the only thing in most tabletop role-playing games that a player does is play their character. That's it. So why shouldn't they get to play what they want? Okay. 2. Something new and different. Now, there's something valid here. Because people can't fall into a rut. I think the way you can get around some of that is you bring everybody together and you have them design their group together. And in the process of doing that, to get the synergy right, they may end up playing something they would not necessarily have chosen at first glance, but that makes the party, function as a cohesive unit more efficiently. Makes their efficacy higher. I love that word. So I think you can kind of get around that. But if somebody likes playing a tank and they want to play a tank, let them play the tank. Do you fault your friends when they're doing an online game because they want to play? They have one particular character, one particular type of character they like to play. Why? Why would you do that? What do you gain out of that? Again, more gatekeeping. 3, time saved. Now this one is weird to me When it comes to the generations of the characters, the player characters, you're not saving any time. 0. And if you're rolling up randomly for your enemies, the villains and many of the NPCs, that can flat out just not make sense. Period. If you have a particular group or type of group out there that's the bad guy needs to be from that group. Now you could say, well, we need to play against type. All right, maybe. But that should be a choice. It should not be you. I do not want to give up control of that to a random roll. It's one of the reasons I'm not a big fan of narrative games. I don't want other people to have control of my story. I don't mind changing my story as it evolves and changes in the group, but I have an overarching storyline, and I would like to keep that going. I don't want someone to come along and knocking the underpinnings out by a random roll, and I end up with a mouse as the main bad dude. And you're saying, well, that'd be really interesting if that was true. It could be. Or it could be absurd. Remember, in Star Trek, originally, the Ferengi were supposed to be a threat, just like the Klingons were. Guess what didn't work? Right. And they became the humorous aspect of the show, Deep Space Nine. They weren't the threat, like the Klingons. So the best laid plans of mice and men don't always work out. Okay? Tribbles are not a threat on a one-to-one combat. They're more of an existential threat, particularly if you are a farmer. So I'm not going to give up that kind of control to a random roll, and I don't see how it saves me any time at all. I think it just creates incredible levels of complexity, and you're going to be doing retconning all over the goddamn place if you do that. It makes no sense to me at all. That particular, I'm like, how did you get to number 3? I can't. And number 4 is realism. You are right. We didn't get to choose our families. All right? Absolutely true. I didn't get to choose the fact that I was going to end up being a bald dude with bad eyes, crappy teeth, diabetic at 44. Partly my responsibility. I don't ignore that fact. But with a genetic predisposition to that. I didn't get to choose that I have a genetic predisposition to depression. My grandfather had it. My father had it. Both of them medicated with alcohol. That's not a good choice. That's all true. I didn't get to choose any of that. Any more than someone out there who's in a wheelchair or who's blind or who's poor. They were born into circumstances beyond their control. Absolutely true. Why do you want to force someone to do that? For realism? I just think it's cruel. Because what if that person wants to do something in a game they can't do in real life? And we're not just talking about like being able to fly or be Superman, but just be able to do things in the world in a way that they can't do here and now because they want to. Again, the only thing a player has in the world in their game is their character. Why won't you let them play what they want? This bugged me to no end. As you can see, I'm 8 minutes into this video. So I know I've talked about this topic before, but it's always good to hear new perspectives. I know there are people here now who weren't here the first time. So I'd like to discuss this, if you agree or not. And if you are interested in looking at this is After the Bomb, we are on page 8 of the book, in case you want to look at it yourself. I'm looking at a digital copy, but they're available out there. So what do you think? Do you agree? Think it's crazy? So let's talk about it. Let's hash out the fact, do we think that excellent players can play anything, or is that an act of gatekeeping?